Hi, everyone. It's Fiona Kane here. Welcome to my podcast. This is episode 3. And today, what I'm going to be talking about is really the basics of when you decide that you're ready to go on a health journey, or if you're thinking about improving your health, changing your health, anything towards getting better, then it is really important to understand some basic strategies or some basic things to have in place so that you can achieve that health, so that you can achieve that good health. So, the first one, and I've got some notes here, bear with me because I don't always remember in order. So, the first one I would say it's acceptance. And what I mean by acceptance, I don't mean accepting that, oh, this is it and I can't change my situation. It's not that. Acceptance is actually just acknowledging where you are at. That is all. So, acceptance is saying, right at this very moment, this is the truth of where I'm at. So, where I'm at with my physical health or my mental health or whatever is going on for you, this is where I'm at now. Because you can't make a plan if you don't know where you're going, like where you're starting. It's a bit like, I don't know, if I said drive from, here's, I want you to drive to this place, but you don't know where the starting point is. Well, you can't plan the trip, can you? If I don't tell you, drive to Darwin. Yeah, am I starting from Sydney or am I starting from Perth? Right? It's quite different. So you need to know your starting point. And that comes with a certain level of acceptance. And acceptance is not accepting that it can't change. Acceptance is just saying, right here, right now, this is the reality. And I know it might sound really silly, but it is a really big problem because what we do is we go into denial about it. It's not really that bad, or what we do is we go into the past and coulda, shoulda, woulda. So, we sort of start talking to ourselves about, well, it should be like this and it's not fair and, whatever it is. And while there might be a whole story that is absolutely true about how unfair it is that you're in the situation you're in now, it's just where you are right now. And I'm not saying that you don't have a right to feel angry or sad or bad or grieve that, all of those things, because all of that is really valid. But ultimately, to get well, there needs to be a certain level of acceptance of what is. Acceptance isn't accepting that you're okay with it having be that way or that you're okay with what's happened to your health. It's just saying, right now, right here, this is the reality of my health, right? So acceptance is really, really important. When you accept where you are, then you can actually make a plan, and you can actually plan, like I said, the example is the trip. You can plan that because you know what your starting point is. So acceptance is really, really important. The other thing is to understand that this is your own race. You're not competing with anyone else in this race. Because the other thing, and this is what makes acceptance really, really hard as well, is this, well, what about that person? That's not fair. Or that person's doing this, so I should be able to do that. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm, like, I'll give you an example, even a sort of, okay, it's not an exact example, but you'll know what I mean. So I'm at the gym, right? And I'm 5 foot tall, 51-year-old woman. Am I going to compare myself to a 25-year-old man who's 6'3"? No, because there's simply things that he can do that I'm not able to do. I'm not able to do now. And some of those things I will not be able to do ever, just purely because of my height and who I am, right? And that is okay. That is fine. I don't have to be him. He doesn't have to be me. But the truth is that if I compared my success to his success, or all the 22-year-old girls who walk around the gym and they're perfectly healthy, if I compare myself to them, I would feel really bad about myself. But the truth is, I'm not them. I've had a whole life up until now that has led me to where I am right here, right now with my health. And all I can do is run my own race. All I can do is show up each day for me and do what I need to do. But if I spend all of my time saying, well, I should be like that, or what about that, or oh, I'm no good because I'm not as good as that, it's not helpful at all. So it really is your own race, and that acceptance thing. I see it also with, another example around the acceptance and running your own race and stuff would be around, say, things like food. Like sometimes when people, say, for example, I don't eat gluten. At some, I'm sensitive to gluten, and some people are really very severely allergic to gluten. And you can be angry that, oh, how come I have to be this person? It's not fair, and blah blah blah. And that's fine. Again, you're allowed to do that, and you're allowed to have that. However, the fact is that you can't have it. That person can. What do you do, right? There's nothing to be done, right? It's just as simple as that. There's always someone who can do something that you can't do. There's always, you could do something that someone else can't do. That's just life. And life is that we're all in a different situation, and we're all in a different body, and we're all at a different stage in our lives. So you have to accept that you're the one that can't eat gluten. If that's your case, that's you, right? Simple as that. That other person will have their own burden. They don't have it now, they'll have it at some point. We all have our different burdens in life to deal with. So it really, acceptance is really important, because I see people that they just still eat gluten because they feel resentful that they're not able to. And it's like, well, fine, if it's not harming your health. But if it's harming your health, then you're sabotaging yourself. And so being in denial about a fact, or wishing it was a different way, wishing you were someone else, can be really big problems. The other thing that I know, Eckhart Tolle, the sort of author and speaker, he, I'm not going to get the wording exact, but I'll get the gist of it. He says something along the lines of, much pain in the world comes from wishing you were somewhere that you were not. So it comes from either being in the past, shoulda, coulda, woulda, it was better in the back in the day, whatever, or it comes from future of, oh, I should be there, or I want to be there, or whatever it is. But or what if this happens, or what if that happens, and well, that's all going to be very scary, and all the things going forward, rather than actually just being present right now. So really, uh, health and wellness for many of us begins with just being present, just being real, and just being honest about where you are right now. The other thing too is that if you're not honest, I know when I get at different times in my life where I've become honest about different things. Even another example would be, I've had some financial challenges in my life, and when you're kind of like in denial, it's not happening, everything's fine. Well, then you're not putting anything into place. But when you kind of go, look, I really do need to speak to my accountant, really do need to talk to a financial planner. I really do need to, have these honest conversations with my husband, and I really do need to work out a budget and see what the reality is. You might not like that reality, and it might be very challenging. However, now you're able to put in a plan and get the right advice so that you can change your situation, right? But the situation doesn't change by pretending that it's not there. Same thing happens with health challenges. If you pretend that it's not there, you pretend that you don't have a challenge, you pretend that you can do the same thing that everybody else can, and it's not fair that I can't, so I'm just going to keep doing the thing. Yeah, you can do all those things. However, it doesn't achieve anything because you don't move forward, right? You only move forward when you have a starting place, and a starting place requires you to be really, really honest, and really honest with yourself, first and foremost. So just checking my notes, seeing where I'm up to. Okay. So the other thing too is that it is important to take responsibility. And that is what all of this is. That's what being honest with yourself is. That's what being present with what's going on is. It's taking responsibility. So responsibility doesn't have to mean blame, because sometimes I know when I talk about health topics, people can misinterpret or kind of get a bit defensive and think if you say that you could do this or do that to maybe help prevent disease, that somehow it's blaming everybody for every health thing that happens. Not doing that at all. I've had enough of my own health challenges, and some of them I may have brought on myself, and some of them I certainly didn't. Not as far as I can work out. And some of life, yes, certainly there are lifestyle choices and lifestyle diseases that if we did something different, they maybe wouldn't happen. And there's also bad luck and everything in between. But I, choosing to take responsibility doesn't mean you're blaming people or blaming yourself. You might if it's something that you chose to do, but even then, at some point, you've got to move on. However, do need to take responsibility. So, and take responsibility for as what can I do? So sometimes we do get caught up in I can't do this, I can't do that, and I can't do the other. And I know I'm a really big one for this. This is a place where I get stuck a lot of the time. So again, not saying it as a judgment, but we do get stuck in the I can'ts, and we have a big long list of what we can't do. What is really important is to look at the list of I cans. Like, what can you do? Be solution focused. And to do that, though, you need to take responsibility. You need to be present. You need to be honest, and you need to accept where you are. When you do all that, you can take responsibility. And responsibility, you might not be responsible for all of it. So it's what bit do I need to take responsibility for, or can I take responsibility for? What does it look like? So it might be a responsibility for turning up to appointments. It might be a responsibility for eating well or in cooking and shopping for the healthy foods. It might be responsibility for getting yourself out the door when you don't feel like going out, and for moving your body when you don't feel like it. But it's, do responsibility for what you can. And there might be things that you have no control over. Well, you have no control over those things. But sometimes what we do is we go, well, I've got no control over the thing, the thing, and the thing. And so we say, well, so I can't do anything, nothing to be done. Nothing. You do have control over how you think about a situation. You do have control over the language and the words that you use to either talk about a situation to someone else or talk about it in your own mind, what you're saying to yourself. You do have control very much over those two things. And most of us, not everyone, but most of us have control over things like our breathing and what we choose to eat and whether or not we move our bodies. So, and still, there might be limitations, but we certainly have control over certain things, right? But what we do is we often just focus on the limitations and focus on the I can'ts. And because we can't, and there's a whole list of all the things we can't do, we just say, well, I can't do anything. And it's a bit like it's the old fashioned thing is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, well, there might be lots of dirty bathwater in there that you can't do anything with, but there's a baby in there too. And don't throw that out, right? So it's like throwing yourself out and said, oh, I can't do anything, so I won't do anything. That's it. Uh, so what we do is we literally do nothing. Um, or sometimes we don't even just do nothing. We actively sabotage our health because we can't do anything anyway. So I may as well just sabotage my health. Right. That's a good idea. Yeah, that really works. So we do have to take responsibility. Okay, so responsibility is another really important one. And I just thought of something else while I was saying that. I'll see if I can get my mind to bring it back. Come back, come back. Oh, that's a problem with. I've got sort of word finding problems from the strokes I've had, and then just age and life. I think you start to forget some things. It's just sitting there on the edge. I had another point to go to. I just kind of have a sip of water. Excuse me. I had another point to go to. And hopefully, when I go to that other point, the other thing that just popped into my mind will come back. It's so close, it's sitting on the edge. Okay. So the next thing I had was to embody, to be present. Now, this might be more challenging for some people than others. Some people who have been through various traumas and abuse may find this very challenging, and I will just encourage you to obviously seek help around that. See a therapist, do what you need to do. So, this is not a judgment on people who aren't up for this yet. If you're not up for this yet, go and get some help so maybe you can be. But for many of us, we really do need to do that embodiment. We need to be present, and it'd be really useful for everyone to be able to do it, but at your own pace and in a way that works for you and is supportive for you where you're at with your mental health. But the reason I say this, the reason I say embodiment is so important, you can't fix it if you're not there. You just can't. You need to be present. You need to be present to know what needs to be fixed, right? And not only that, but you need to be present to notice what's working and what's not, and to assess what needs to happen. What needs to happen next. What's going on? What's going on for me? And you just cannot do that if you're just not there. And I'll give you an example, even just with some of the eating challenges that a lot of my clients have. Is they have challenges with reflux and indigestion and all of the sort of bloating and lots of digestive discomfort. And there's a whole lot of reasons you can have this, and some of them are physical abnormalities and various disease or whatever. But much of it, in many, many cases, is just a relationship to how you eat, how fast you eat, how present you are when you eat. If you slow down and you're kind of breathing before you eat, so that your body actually knows that you are in rest and digest mode and not fight or flight mode. So, just to be present enough to be there, to be in that mode, so your body can make digestive enzymes so you can digest the food. That is really important just for your body to function properly. And then on top of that, to notice what you are eating. Because there's a couple of things that I see all of the time. I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Is when we are able to be present, and you sit down, you have the meal, you are able to notice in your body a couple of things. So first of all, you notice when you are maybe satisfied compared to full, compared to bursting. You're not going to notice that if you're not present. You have to be there to notice that. So first of all, it's about, how much you eat, how much you need to eat, what works for you. But next, you will notice other things like whether or not you're getting reflux or bloating or feeling tired or feeling sick or whatever response your body has to eating that food. You will notice it if you are present. And I'll give you an example that when I eat potato chips, I get reflux, right? Now, that doesn't mean I need to be medicated for reflux. It means I need to eat less potato chips, right? Simple as that. So sometimes reflux and things like that are an actual disease and need to be treated in various ways. But sometimes we actually just need to be present to what our body does and doesn't like, and what nourishes your body and what punishes your body, or at the very least is not helpful, right? And when you are present, you notice that. The other thing that my clients talk about all of the time is they talk about how they often they change what they're craving, because when you slow down and eat food quite slowly, it doesn't always taste as good as you thought it did. And so suddenly that thing that you got through the drive-through that you normally eat while you're driving and distracted and not even thinking about it, and you just throw it down in about 2 seconds before you even have time to notice out of the wrapper. When you suddenly sit down and you open it slowly and you pay attention to it and you chew on it slowly and you notice the taste and you notice how you feel, and then suddenly you're feeling sick and you're feeling bloated and you've got reflux and whatever, and you notice that it tastes like plastic and it doesn't taste like real food. That's the experience that you can have when you stay present. So when we stay present, in my experience, when we learn how to eat in a way that works for us and that makes us feel good and we feel well, then when you eat in a way that does not, you will notice it and you will change it. And generally speaking, most of the time, we're going to make choices that we know work for us, that work for our body, and support our health. That's what we do, right? So it is really important to be present when you're eating or when you're doing different things in your body, being present in your body, and just notice what works for you. It's the same with so exercise, an example. Obviously, be present in your body and notice what's working and what's not. And don't, a lot of people get really gung ho. I've just remembered what I think I forgot before. I'm just going to write it down so I can come back to it. Um, Obviously, if you're present, you're less likely to injure yourself because a lot of people go really gung ho and like, oh, I'm going to do the thing, and then they really beat themselves up with exercise, and you can really beat yourself up with it and can really hurt yourself, which is not helpful. So we can go that direction. But the other direction is what I've noticed is now that I'm exercising and I quite regularly have been for quite a while now, is I notice how I feel when I don't. And I notice how I feel if I let 2 or 3 days go by and I haven't moved my body. I am stiffer and my back hurts more. And I've just noticed that I don't feel as good. I don't feel as good emotionally, mentally, emotionally. I don't feel as good physically, and my body sort of starts to seize up because I'm not using it. So I've noticed that in myself that when I'm present, I notice that okay, exercise serves me. I come back feeling motivated and energized, and it's good for me. And that's being present allows me to notice that. And as I said before, when I was talking about the food, same thing. That essentially when you are present, you just notice what works for you and what doesn't. And largely, what you will do is you will make choices for yourself that serve you and that nourish you. And that's the whole. If you want to achieve wellness, if you want to get well, that is the starting point. The starting point is accepting what's going on for you. It's being knowing that you're running your own race, not anybody else's. It's your own race. Just compare yourself to you. It's knowing that you need to take responsibility, not necessarily blame, but responsibility. It's also knowing that you need to embody or get support around that if it's something you feel like you can't do at this stage, but embody and be present and notice what's going on for you and notice your subtle signs that your body tells you, because you can't heal until you're present and you know what's going on. Um, the other thing that, listen to your body. And I talked about that in episode 1 when I was talking about my health issues, that, you really need to listen to your body because it does give you sort of whispers and gives you all sorts of messages until it starts screaming and yelling and eventually makes you stop. So it is important to listen to the signs that your body is telling you in general. But one last thing that I thought is useful as well in this is avoiding perfectionism, avoiding being perfect. Because if we, again, it comes back to that baby out with the bathwater thing I was talking about before. But what happens is, and I see this happen with some of my clients, I try and warn them not to do this, but everyone's different. They have their own way. What happens is we sort of say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week for 45 minutes and I'm going to eat perfectly and I'm going to follow this eating plan perfectly and I'm going to do all the perfect, 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 right? And then as soon as you miss the gym one day or you eat a Mars bar or you, whatever it is, as soon as you do the thing, whatever the thing is, but the thing that you perceive as a failure, then you just throw the whole thing out. You say, oh, well, I couldn't do it. I failed, right? Can't do it perfectly, so I won't do it at all, right? In my opinion, perfection is just a cop out, because the truth is you can never do it perfectly, not forever, right? No such thing. And because there's no such thing as perfect, well, you're off the hook, aren't you? Because it doesn't matter what you do, you have already got your excuse lined up of how to get out of it. Because the minute you perceive that you haven't done it perfectly, you've made the mistake, you've stuffed up, whatever the language you want to use around it, I've got off track. The minute that you perceive that you have failed, oh, I'll quit because I can't do it perfectly, so I can't do it at all. Right. So, perfect excuse before you even begin. I think it's a major cop out. And perfection is all about other people. Perfection is actually kind of this underlying, Brene Brown describes it as, if I can remember the language, but basically it's, if I don't look perfect, do it perfect, be perfect. then I will have, like, there'll be shame, blame, and judgment, and other people will be judging me, and then essentially, like, I'll be kicked out of the tribe, sort of thing. So it got a lot to do with shame, blame, and judgment, and other people's opinion of you. That is quite different to wanting to do something well. So you can have, healthy striving where you want to do something well, but healthy striving understands that you are a human being, that you are imperfect, and you know you'll get there when you get there. And healthy striving understands, whenever you look at those like graphs for success, especially when you look at any human being's graph for success, especially when it relates to health. In my experience, it's not kind of you start here and then you kind of just go upwards, and it's that sort of whole upward turning, graph that you see where it's just shoots up to the stars and goes so perfect. The truth is, anyone's graph to success, whether it be in business or whether it be in health or whatever it is, it's just up and down and up and down, up and all over the place. My coach, the lovely Shandu Bickford, her and I, we talk about this all of the time, and she describes it as snakes and ladders. And snakes and ladders is a more accurate description of what a health journey looks like, or what any journey looks like, really. So when you understand it's the old snakes and ladders thing, that you climb up the ladder and you get there and you think, oh, I'm getting close to the top, and then you land on the snake and you go down again. Got to climb up again, whatever. That is the reality of it. That is the truth. And that is part of when I talked about in the beginning of the acceptance of where you're at. That's another level of acceptance. Acceptance that you are imperfect. Acceptance that the world is imperfect. Acceptance that it's going to be a snakes and ladders thing. That's just how it is. We are complicated. The world is complicated. Life is complicated. Health is complicated, right? It's not going to go perfectly. However, if you just one step in front of the next, in front of the next, and in front of the next, and check in daily and look at what does self-care look like for me today, that is something I'll talk about a lot more in a future video. But just staying present and just doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That is all you can do. And those things that I've just been talking about there are your initial steps to getting well. That's your starting place. Your starting place is all of those things around acceptance and responsibility and embodiment, and not doing it perfectly, just showing up. It's all about just showing up for yourself. Anyway, I hope that was useful to you and you got something out of it. And I will talk to you next time. I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.